My name is Bill. Welcome to the last Tuesday night edition of Night Terrors. From now on, it's going to be 2 days a week. Both will be on Twitch. Only one will be on YouTube. That's the Saturday night edition. Right about there. And the other night will be Twitch only. Of course, that's our movie night. We're not going to ditch that. That's going to be on Wednesday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. This is the last Tuesday night show. No more Mondays and Tuesdays, regretfully. Let me just see if I can upend this a little bit. Come on, you. What's going wrong here? I should be able to grab that. Grab. There we go. I wasn't grabbing. We are 52 seconds into the show. It's going to be a viewer request night tonight. Somewhere around the middle, we'll do the Hoosac Tunnel. We have a first-time chat from Fred Vickley. Fred Vickley says, "Hey, I'm Mr. Brightside 97. Hey, I'm Mr. Brightside 97, a passionate gamer and streamer. I absolutely love this game. I'll be thrilled to team up with others for some matches. You can connect with me on my Discord." Well, welcome, Mr. Fred. You might be disappointed by the content. Welcome, Green Tea says, "Hey, everyone." Shazbot Shiznit has greetings for Night Terrors and crew. Thank you, Shazbot. David Bryce says, "Good evening to all." Yeah, I should have my little list on over here. See how long Mr. Fred hangs around? I hope you do, Fred. Big L1 says, "Good evening." Guys, there's no more Monday or Tuesday night editions. We're now going 2 nights a week only. I swear that's the last cut for the foreseeable future. We're left with Saturdays on Twitch and YouTube, and then, of course, the Wednesday night movie, which I will never ditch on, so to speak, on Wednesday nights. We need, oh no, it's Taco is here. Taco, we need suggestions, by the way. It is a viewer request night, as is every night from here on in. Shows only Wednesdays and Saturdays from now on. No more Monday and Tuesday. With my regrets. Can't stay long. Can you stay long enough to throw us a bone of a suggestion? Would be appreciated, but it's okay. Verpine, we have our first topic. Our first topic is the Hoosac Tunnel haunting. I was going to do this recorded. Thank you, Taco. Got it. Thank you, Green Tea. I was going to do this pre-taped, but since there are no more Monday and Tuesday shows, we only now have, let me bring it up again. We only have Wednesday and Saturday shows. Wednesday, of course, being movie night. So I don't need any pre-recorded show after I get off my one-day vacation this coming week. And no one will realize I'm gone anyway. Verpine with another topic. I like that one. Thank you, Verpine, for topic 3. And that's why live tonight, we're going to have the Hoosac Tunnel haunting. And here at Museum Hack is an article called The Haunted Hoosac Tunnel. It's in Massachusetts, in New England, at museumhack.com by Alex Johnson. Correct, Taco. Saturday and Wednesday shows only. That is correct, Taco. That'll give me time to work on the shorts I'm doing for YouTube. And I think I'm going to have to do some other hustling to come up with some bread, because the pockets are empty. The pockets have finally emptied out. The Haunted Hoosac Tunnel by Alex Johnson. And Alex writes, oh, I like that hood, not the hoodie, but the woolen-looking cap he has on. As a lifelong New Englander, begins Alex, and skeptical wet blanket. I'm a little curious why the region is such a popular place for spooky shit. Witches, vampires, and ghosts. Why here? Is it all the old buildings, the crooked trees, the long dreary winters, You know what? Actually, that makes sense. New England is a gloomy place when it wants to be. When it wants to be. How about all the time? And it wants to be about 8 months out of the year. I would say more like 11, 12. And the more history a place has, the more likely people will report seeing ghosts there, right? Thank you, Green Tea. Suggestion 4. We probably have all the suggestions we need. Maybe one more emergency suggestion would be welcome. After that, we're full up. New England is a gloomy place. The more history a place has, the more likely people will report seeing ghosts there. Still, I've never seen a ghost. I don't know how that works. Are we still making new ghosts, or are all the ghosts grandfathered in from back when America used to actually make things? Green Tea says, mine may not need extended time. All the more reason for a 5th and perhaps 6th alternate selection. So put your thinking caps on. This is a viewer request show, as are all shows henceforth. And I gotta go where to go to this. Oh, the picture thing. Because from now on, guys and gals, only Wednesdays and Saturdays, Wednesday being movie night. That's going to be the new Night Terrors schedule for the foreseeable future. Wednesdays and Saturdays only. So this is the last Tuesday show. Ooh, free team building toolbox, $49 value. I'm tempted to think that a prerequisite to seeing a ghastly apparition is actually believing a ghost to begin with, which I do not, writes the author, which I assume means I will never see one. But that's likely what Dr. Clifford J. Owens thought when he entered the Hoosac Tunnel in June of 1872, looking for a rational explanation for the reported howls of pain and the sadness echoing in the long dark of the unfinished railroad passage. Well, I'd like to see, I wish I could see video on that, but we're not doing any more video. Ooh, good one, Shazbot. Nice selection, number 5. We really only need one more, folks. Which we may or may not get to. Shazbot, what a good suggestion. Thank you, sir. So the doctor heard howls of pain and sadness echoing. He didn't believe in the ghost stories until he and a site superintendent saw a headless apparition and could offer no other explanation. Granted, we are talking about a doctor from the 19th century, back when they'd tell you to drink mercury to cure an STD. Still, Dr. Owens' diagnosis was in. Dr. Owens' diagnosis was in. The tunnel had a case of acute poltergeist. The Hoosac Tunnel. I may not believe in ghosts, but I sure believe in nightmares. And the construction of the Hoosac Tunnel was one of a body-mangling nature. The Hoosac Tunnel is so named because it's a passage carved through the Hoosac Range in the Berkshire Mountains of western Massachusetts. I drove over that mountain once on a bicycle. It's like 19 miles up one side of that mountain on the road. And I was driving up on my bicycle, going to see a buddy of mine from high school. This is right before I went into college. And on the way back down, a car yells, a passenger of a car, no, the driver must have been, leans out and yells to me, 14 miles to go. That's uphill, ladies and gents. I was in low gear the whole way. The European descended folk who settled the area kept the Algonquin name for the mountain range. But they had some other changes in mind. Mostly they wanted to blow a big freaking hole in it so they could run a train through it. Well, that would have been a hell of a trip up the mountain at 19 miles for a train. You're a brave man, Bill, says Taco. Thank you, Taco. Much appreciated. Digging big tunnels underground has always been extremely dangerous, but I estimate it was particularly terrible in the mid-19th century. Because it was deadly, the work was slow. Construction began in 1851, and the tunnel was not completed until 24 years later. low-tech, unsafe conditions, noxious, volatile, flammable gases, and highly unstable explosions claimed the lives of over 190 men before the tunnel was completed. The Hoosac Tunnel thus earned its nickname, the Bloody Pit. The workers there called it the Bloody Pit. The Bloody Pit. That's not because they were descended from the English. Let's see, the Hoosac Tunnel. Let's get some pictures, shall we? The Hoosac Tunnel. I don't know if that's still open or not. We'll find out in a second, I guess. The Hoosac Tunnel. I don't see any trains. What's the sign say? Open image and new tab, right? Yes, I think so. Danger, active rail line. Well, I guess it is active. You can see a kind of a shine on top of the rails. So I would suspect that to be true. But I know that's a very old sign. That's a very old sign. With hardly any graffiti on it. Interesting. The jury's still out. Yeah, down the other side of the hill was pretty nice. It was coasting all the way. But the other side of the Berkshire Mountains, if you're coming from New York State, the other side is, I don't know, maybe 3 miles down, down the road. It's not as, there's not as much mountain on the Massachusetts side. Mostly on the New York side. Visiting the Hoosac Tunnel. Let's get rid of this. There we go. There's a train. Is that a real train in the real tunnel? Or are we looking at Photoshop here? That looks real to me, but the guy must have had balls to take that picture. It's coming right at him. Maybe he had a selfie type apparatus. He held it out on a stick, maybe. Is that the same side we just saw? It says 1877 there. You'd think that would be real. I don't know if there's anybody to tell from this picture, though. It doesn't look photoshopped. But I don't know. Hardly a shadow here thrown to work with. Although, it seems to show a shadow to the right here on the ground. And there's no shadow in this cleft of the tree. So I'm thinking maybe not real. On the other hand, this part of the hill itself is in shadow, so that's not indicative. Because this whole structure right here might be casting shadow. Wait a minute. There's sunlight on here, right? Is that sunlight? Right there? That looks like sunlight. So if the sun's coming from the front, I don't even see shadow being here. I don't know, unless it's an unusual arrangement of the trees. Yeah, this whole hollow is in shadow, so you can't really tell from the shadow here and the shadow in the cleft. 1877, is that the same view as the other end that we just saw? 1877, same view. Same end of the tunnel. There's graffiti there on the right side. There's some lichen crawling down there. Same lichen here. Same graffiti here. So laborers were dropping like flies throughout the excavation project. Excuse me. And maybe that would have been enough to win the Hoosac Tunnel its own ghost army. Or at least a division. But the best ghosts don't come from workplace accidents. They come from someone unaliving someone else. Nitroglycerin was the shiny new volatile chemical on the block in 1865. Well, before it was ever used to treat angina, nitro was used to blow the righteous freak out of God's own mountains. Gotcha, man. Remember to send an invite so I can stream on your channel. Gotcha, man. I've been thinking about that every day for 7 to 10 days. I remember. I got the email marked. I really should have printed a hard copy of it. I'll probably do that next. But yeah, I remember, my friend. Thank you, buddy. Gotcha, man is, by the way, going to be the guest host of tomorrow's twin feature. And that is Child's Play and A Quiet Earth. You're going to like Child's Play. That's the first one. The first one with Chucky. You can't miss that. And A Quiet Earth is a atmospheric, apocalyptic movie from down under. Quite a good movie. Both have very high ratings on IMDb. Thank you, Gotcha Man, for being the guest host. In March of that year, 3 explosive experts gave the combustive agent a shot. Ned Brinkman, Billy Nash, and their drummer, Ringo Kelly, their drummer Ringo, primed to charge. Oh, drummer. Maybe he handles the drum of explosives. I'm sure he's not drumming on them. Primed to charge, then sped off to a safety bunker for detonation. Unfortunately, Ringo fouled up. He blew the nitro before his partners got to safety. Oh, great. You gotta have a safety on that switch. Oh, Gotchaman says it will be rough and ugly. I doubt that. But I have plans for the next one. If I can get a camera and mic set up, I'm sure you'll rise to the occasion, sir. If not, I'm sure it'll be okay. Elder Girl says, watch out for male nudity in the Quiet Earth. The thing about that, Elder, is ever since that nudity appeared on the show way back when, Twitch no longer promotes it to outside people. They now only, I don't think it's even promoted to you guys. I don't know about that, but so there's much less likelihood of a chance of a complaint about the nudity. According to the stories, Ned Brinkman and Billy Nash were buried alive under tons of rock in the explosion. I'd wager that it's more likely they were buried dead. Either way, it aroused suspicion. Was this simply an accident? Like all the other deaths in the tunnel? Or was this murder? Oh, Gotcha Man says, shield your eyes. I don't know how uppity Twitch's AI is. Yeah. I kind of think it was a viewer, a visiting viewer who reported us. Was this simply an accident, like all the other deaths in the tunnel? Or was it an intentional unaliving? Ringo Kelly disappeared soon after. Workers found him 10 days after the nitroglycerin incident, 2 miles deep into the tunnel, where his partners had died. Ringo was unalived, apparently strangled. Without any suspects, justice from the crew, right? Without any suspects, the case went cold. I imagine there's more than one. The case went cold, but the tunnel workers were convinced that Ringo had been revenged by the specters of his dead partners. Who are you going to call? Never heard that one. Welcome, Fran Stein. Welcome to Armando. Mondo V is here. A high mortality rate was one thing, but specters were another. The workmen reported hearing cries of agony coming from a man's voice inside the tunnel, refusing to enter after dark. This was a problem, despite the fact that it was always dark inside the tunnel. In September of 1868, that is. Welcome, Brooke Birch. A former cavalry officer and mechanical engineer named Paul Travers was asked by a Mr. Dunn to investigate. They're not sure who Mr. Dunn was. They entered expecting to find nothing but the sounds of wind howling through the rock. Instead, the two of them heard the voice of a groaning man, just as reported by the superstitious workers. Travers wrote of the experience, quote, "I'll admit I have not been this frightened since Shiloh." I wonder how nasty Shiloh was. That's a regular search. That's a regular search. We have to get off images, though. All, please. How nasty was the battle at Shiloh? Oh, that's Google. Can't do it there. Have to do with AI at here. Same question. Answer with AI. At the brave.com search engine. Didn't I say answer with AI? Try again, please. Answer with AI. Same thing. Doesn't it always appear up there, though? The Battle of Shiloh, fought in 1862. Wait a minute. Are they even up to 62 yet in the story? In September of 68, former cavalry officer. 3 years after the end of the war. And 6 years after the Battle of Shiloh, was one of the bloodiest engagements of the American Civil War. In the South, I hear they say the battle between the states. The clash between Union and Confederate forces resulted in staggering casualties. The war between the states, rather, with both sides suffering heavy losses. Union, who had more unalived, 1,754. More wounded, 8,408. Much more captured or missing, 2,885. Confederate side, the slightly lower number at 728 killed. The somewhat lower number of 8,012 wounded. And at nearly only 25% of the loss, captured and missing at only, one might say, 959. Totals on the Union, over 13,000. Totals on the Confederate side, over 10,000. Total casualties, almost 24K, making it one of the deadliest battles of the Civil War. Intense fighting. The battle began April 6, when Confederate forces launched a surprise attack on Union camps, catching Grant's army off guard. The fighting was intense and chaotic in their tents, with troops on both sides engaging in hand-to-hand combat. The Union lines were repeatedly broken, and the Confederates pushed deep into the Union camp. Yeah, the camp itself must have been huge, right? We probably have the command and control in the center. Loss of life was staggering. Bodies littering the battlefield. Have a good one, Taco. Good luck with the business. Steve Comer is here. Oh, and Stephen says we refer to it as the War of Northern Aggression. Thank you very much. The War of Northern Aggression. I like that. Green Tea says the Battle of Hemp Bales in Missouri is interesting. Ooh, sounds like a topic coming up next. Thank you, Green Tea. The fighting was so intense that many soldiers were unalived or wounded while trying to flee or seek shelter. The sounds of screams, gunfire, and cannon fire filled the air, creating a sense of chaos and horror. Morale and aftermath. The Battle of Shiloh had a profound impact on both sides. For the Confederacy, the loss of their commander, General Johnston, was a devastating blow. The Union victory, although costly, gave them a crucial foothold in western Tennessee and set the stage for future campaigns. Legacy. The Battle of Shiloh remains one of the most infamous battles of the Civil War, known for its brutality and carnage. It marked a turning point in the war, as both sides realized the conflict would be long and bloody, rather than a quick and decisive victory. No kidding. That was their first inkling. In summary, the Battle of Shiloh was a nasty and devastating conflict. Okay, let's check out the Battle of Hemp Bales. Answer with AI. This is in Missouri. 1861, early in the war of Northern aggression. The Battle of the Hemp Bales, also known as the First Battle of Lexington, was a minor conflict of the American Civil War. It took place in Missouri, Lexington, Missouri. Fought between Union Army and the Missouri State Guard, which was pro-Confederate. Wow. In September of that year, the Missouri State Guard, led by General Sterling Price. Oh, we got mousage sign. Damn, I just heard a mousage. Oh my goodness. How disconcerting. Well, the cat will be around later. I thought I heard it earlier this evening. We were watching television. Then we turned off the sound, and then of course there was no more sound. Welcome, Butterbeard. First time commenter on Twitch. Butterbeard says, "Hey, Bill and the rest of you yahoos. I'm a Twitcher just like you guys." Green Tea says, "In Lexington, there is still a cannonball stuck in our courthouse columns." Courthouse columns. Did I say court horse? Courthouse columns. Well, we have to see that. I wonder if we can do just the right here on images. There it is. Battle of Lexington. Whoa. Oh, here's a good view. Open link, a new tab. No, open image, a new tab. Holy moly. Looks like they paint it, though, on a regular basis. I bet better than it getting all rusty, I guess, and streaming rust down the column, right? Look at that, will ya? Battle of Lexington. September 18th, 19th, and then the year 2000? Oh, and 20th. And then we can't see the date. How about a different picture? 1861, there it is. 18, 19, 20, 1861. Here's another one. Open image, new tab. 1861. A little bit less detail on that one. Isn't that amazing? The Missouri State Guard was attempting to capture the town of Lexington, which was a key location for the Union Army. The Union forces, led by Colonel Thomas Sweeney, were stationed at the Lexington College, which served as a makeshift fortification. The battle began with a bombardment by the Missouri State Guard. The Union forces were unable to pierce the Confederate defenses and were suffering greatly from thirst and heat. On the second day, the State Guard discovered a quantity of hemp bales, which was used to make like ropes for the Navy, right? Back then, ropes for ships. in a nearby warehouse and arranged them in a line on the west side of the Union entrenchments. This innovative use of the bales as a mobile breastwork allowed Confederates to advance and eventually forced the Union forces to surrender. The siege ended on the 20th, 1 week later, with the Union forces surrendering. The casualty count was relatively light, with 25 unalived and 75 wounded on the Confederate side, and again the Union taking the brunt, with 39 unalived and 120 wounded. The Confederates captured 5 artillery pieces, 3,000 rifles, and 750 horses, as well as returning nearly $1 million in looted funds to the local bank. Those rotten Yankee bastards. General Price, I'm a Yankee, by the way. General Price's victory made him a hero throughout the South. Legacy. Green Tea has actually been to the battle site. If ever a place is haunted, it's there, she says. You can feel it. I've always wanted to go back and take pictures. It's up the hill from the Hemp Bales battle. Battle site at Lexington, so there's more than one battle there, I take it. Thank you, Green Tea. Legacy. Today, visitors to the historic site can learn about the Battle of the Hemp Bales and explore the recreational opportunities available at this historic site. The battle is a testament to the creative use of resources and tactics employed by both sides during the American Civil War, but especially the South. Groovy. Thank you, Green Tea. Oh, I'm back to the original story. After the two of them heard a voice of a groaning man, Travers wrote of the experience, I'll admit I have not been this frightened since the Battle of Shiloh. Just 1 month later, the tunnel claimed 13 more souls in the worst disaster of the project. A gas explosion destroyed a surface pumping station, filling the central shaft with debris. With the pumping station down, the 538-foot shaft filled with water, raising some of the unalived bodies. It would be over a year before all of the victims' bodies were discovered, i.e. excavated. Some of them on a makeshift raft built to keep the men from drowning in the rising water. So they went in with the water still there. Boy, those guys had guts. Can you order someone to do that? Well, their buddies are probably in there, right? They want to see if anyone's alive or something like that, probably. King of Kong says, that's a trip. The exact column I saw in a dream I had. They told me the date my mother would pass away. There were numbers on the columns which I wrote down when I awoke. My mother was then in hospice. May God rest her soul, King of Kong. Quite interesting. In the meantime, before all of the bodies were accounted for, workmen told stories about seeing the men's ghosts on the mountaintop, in the tunnels, carrying their tools. They reported hearing muffled wails near the flooded shaft. It's hard to say if they simply imagined these sounds, or if they were actually hearing cries for help from the survivors who had built the raft. The survivors built the raft? The voices of the ghosts who had not yet unalived. Wait a minute. Why didn't they indicate that previously? It would be over a year before all the victims' bodies were discovered. Some of the bodies understood to mean some of the bodies discovered on a makeshift raft. Oh, discovered on a makeshift raft, built to keep the men from drowning in the rising water. Okay, I totally misinterpreted that. I thought that was a rescue effort. That was their last-ditch effort of the doomed to escape the flood. They reported hearing muffled wails. The sighting seemed to have stopped after all the bodies had been recovered and interred. But the moans and groans of the dark tunnel kept up, and workers remained fearful. 4 years after the explosion, the powers that finally be got a guy with a PhD to take a look. Dr. Clifford Owens and a person named James McKinstry. Again, no rank or position given for James. Entered the tunnel at 11:30 p.m., apparently hoping to see something. Dr. Clifford wrote, "We had traveled about 2 full miles into the shaft when we finally halted to rest. Except for the dim smoky light cast by our lamps, the place was as cold and dark as a tomb." Yeah. James and I stood there talking for a minute or two, and were just about to turn back, when suddenly I heard a strange mournful sound. It was as if someone was suffering in great pain. The next thing I saw was a dim light coming along the tunnel from a westerly direction. At first I believed it was a workman with a lantern. Yet as the light grew closer, it took on a strange blue color. It appeared to change shape, almost into the form of a human being without a head. The light seemed to be floating along about a foot or two above the tunnel floor. In the next instant, it felt as if the temperature had suddenly dropped, and a cold, icy chill ran up and down my spine. The headless form came so close that I could have reached out and touched it, but I was too terrified to move. For what seemed like an eternity, McKinstry and I just stood there, gaping at the headless thing, as if we were 2 wooden Indians. The kind that stood before stores in the old times, right? Wooden Indians. Let's see if we can come up with a picture. Wooden Indian. Wooden Indians for sale. Okay. Yeah, like this kind of stuff. A cigar store, of course, typically. Cheers TV store, on the Cheers TV show. Cigar store Indian. It's in stock. There's only one. And it's almost 3/4 of $1K, $715. $715. So this was on the set of Cheers. So briefly. I don't really recall. How sad, I don't recall. They have the Cheers door here propped open with shims. There's the real size of the picture. There's the shims down there. Let's see one in, can we see one in situ? Which I don't really know what that means, but from context, it means in its natural habitat. Can't we see an old picture of a cigar Indian in front of a store? How about a wooden Indian? Wooden Indian. Let's try just wooden Indian. Come on, old-timey pictures. Wooden Indian. Vintage photograph. Claims to be a vintage wooden Indian at Alamy. Maybe so. Let's take a look. Here it's marked 1950s. Public sale dwelling house. That looks like it's some kind of set. Because here you have two real old-timey notices. Public sale, dwelling house, frame barn. That looks like a very old public notice. So does this one. Yeah, it looks like that might be like some kind of museum exhibit or something. A woman Indian holding cigars. Let's say First Peoples. Come on, let's get a real vintage photo here. How about this guy? And new tab, please. Here we go. Flat to let. 5 rooms and bath. Rent reasonable. Not these days. So this is in its real, in its natural habitat. That it must be. It's holding cigars, but is that a cigar store? It is. Check this out a little closer. Evidently sold by Fine Art America. Look at the postcards for sale. Is that postcards? A lot of them are vertical instead of horizontal. Interesting. Yeah, there's the box of cigars right there. More than one. Imperial brand, it says here. Next one, some kind of novelty store. Let's see, control minus. Book, stationery, and novelties. Next door. Can't see much in the background. This is all blurred out, but that's the novelty section, I guess, in the window. Because I can see one, at least I can make out one lamp. That's about it, and a shorter lamp. And maybe some kind of doll. But why they have, what, did they used to sell poster cards that were vertical as well as horizontal? Or are those something else? Interesting. I'll go with a link. Verpine says we still got them in South Dakota, in the town of Wall. Cigar Store Indians. Link from Eldergrown. Ah, yes. Thank you, Elder. The 4th Street Tobacconist. Mart H. Worth. Mart was his first name. I wonder if that's... Now, the photographer had to have told him to stand still, right? Can we enlarge this? View larger. Yeah, please. That's larger. That's not larger. No way to see it larger at this point, but that's okay. Since they exposed the plate for such a long period of time, of course, the photographer would usually warn you to stay still, but this guy's moving in his hands for some reason. Why? He's not holding anything. Unless he's holding a towel. That's kind of odd. I wonder why he's moving his hands like that. His arms have not blurred, so it was like he had his hands like this for some reason. And he couldn't hold them still for some reason. Oh, he was like this. Holding his coat. Holding his lapels. Well, that should have made his hands more stationary. Oh, see the traces here? He maybe moved his hands up and not his elbow. His elbow would have moved too. That's a mystery. Huh. And there's the Real Cigar Store Indian. Thank you, Weldergrown. What are these? Oh, tobacco. Tobacco. Cigars over here. Cigars. And hard to read over here. Thank you, Elder. His hands got tired, Elder says. From holding on to your lapel. Maybe the hand slipped down or something? Or decide to change his hand position halfway through? Then there'd be a double image, right? I don't know. I don't know, no idea. But that's probably true, Elders. My hands probably did get tired. Maybe he wasn't holding his lapel. Maybe he was holding an object, one of the things they sell. And maybe that is like a towel draped over his hand or something else. Part of something he was displaying. And his hands got tired. He's holding, they took more than one picture. After into like the 10th one, his hands are like this. This is heavy. It's a metal cigar. It's iron cigar. Of which they're so proud. And there's the lackey from inside looking out the window. Did they know their subordinate employee was staring out the window? Probably not. They must have been pissed when they got this back in the mail. Or probably a local photographer. They probably had to pick it up. McKinstry and I just stood there gaping at the headless thing, like two wooden Indians. The blue light remained motionless for a few seconds, as if it were actually looking us over, then floated off toward the east end of the shaft, and vanished into thin air. So it came from the west and went to the east, so it actually passed them. The author continues, lest we think that Dr. Owens was as superstitious as any of the tunnel workers. He included the following. I am above all a realist, nor am I prone to repeating gossip and wild tales that defy reasonable explanation. However, in all truth, I cannot deny what James McKinstry and I witnessed with our own eyes. I like to read McKinstry's account. Evidently long lost to history. Oh, there's a footnote here. What does that footnote say? Open a new tab. Notes and citations. Just says 4. Okay. Mark Howes. A book called Only Ghosts. Back when there weren't many ghosts. Hoosac Tunnel Ghost PHP. Let's check it out. Open link, a new tab. Server not found. You know what that means, folks? We're going to have to go to the Wayback Machine. Go to bookmarks, YouTube tools, research. Right at the top, Wayback Machine. A service of the internetarchive.org, which is at archive.org or web.archive.org. Enter URL. PHP. Can it show us a PHP? Maybe. Active as of last year. Let's take a look at that last year. Well, let's take a look at the year before. That might just be a site not found message. Going to March. What does that mean? Green and orange. Let's try the orange one. I don't usually see orange. Don't scroll past this, it says. Okay, let's see the other one. Let's see the green one. Usually they're blue, I think. That's it, huh? Hoosac Tunnel. 86 captures. What's it say? See a list of every capture for this URL. Before they had a can you chip in? Whoops. Oh, that's them. Can you chip in? Let's go to the early, middle years, 2016. Give me some blue locators. Here's one. Give me some blue snapshots, they're called. Elder says they want you to pay money, don't they? Yeah, that's it's voluntary. Please pitch in. Choose an amount, $5, $50, custom, or $15.58. You don't see those very often. Here we go, ghosts. HoosacTunnel.net. The following text was taken from Historic Haunted America by Michael Norman and Beth Scott, copyright 1995. All the times I have visited the Hoosac Tunnel, I have never seen or heard a ghost. However, the darkness, dampness, and temperature have made me feel intimidated from time to time. In the rugged and beautiful Berkshire Hills of western Massachusetts, where mists draw patterns on the peaks, ghostly legends have prevailed since the earliest days of settlement. One of the most popular legends is that of the haunting of Hoosac Tunnel at North Adams. The digging of this railroad tunnel is a saga of blood, sweat, and tears. Okay, a whole bunch of Deputy Sheriff Gibson. Kelly disappeared. Old Ringo Kelly disappeared. Kelly being strangled. Some of the workmen came to their own conclusion. They knew that Ringo Kelly had been killed by the vengeful spirits of Brinkman and Nash. Fearing the tunnel was cursed, they balked at entering it. Even visitors became uneasy inside the dark, dank cavern, with water dripping continuously from the ceiling and streaming down the walls. Paul Travers toured with a Mr. Dunn, so these people don't know who Mr. Dunn was either. Green Tea says the odd numbers on suggested donation of $15.58 is a psyop to get people to pay more. They see an unusual number, and they think there must be a figured needed amount, so people pay it. Wow, that's genius. Thank you, Green Tea. That's, if you knew that already, that's genius, and if you figured it out, that's also genius. Thank you, ma'am. Green Tea says that's probably why the links are different colors. Right, to highlight that one as the one they actually need. Thank you, Elder. Shazbot says, interesting. So it looks like this is the article is maybe just a rewording of this story. The bodies were found on a raft the men had built to float on the rising water. No confusingly construed sentence in this one. Just that they found more bodies on the raft the men had built to float on the rising water. They had suffocated from the vapors of deadly naphtha gas. During the time those miners were missing in the flood, villagers told strange tales of vague shapes and muffled wails near the water-filled pit. Workmen claimed to see the lost miners carrying picks and shovels through a shroud of mist and snow at the mountaintop, which the second writer turned into tools. They had their tools. Picks and shovels, much more descriptive. The ghostly apparitions would appear briefly, then vanish, leaving no footprints in the snow, and giving no answers to the calls of other miners. But as soon as the raft-bound miners were found and given a decent burial, the visitations ceased. That's a quote from an old newspaper, it looks like. We found out who McKinstry is here. Owens visited the tunnel, accompanied by James R. McKinstry, a drilling operations superintendent. So that's the Dr. Clifford J. Owens, and McKinstry was the superintendent of drilling operations. And there's the complete account written by Owens. Thought to have appeared first in a Michigan newspaper. Be nice to find that in paper. You could probably find it. Because it says here on the night of June 25th, 1872. Jordan Cogburn informs us, I work for an actual tribal member of the Cavallo tribe, California. He calls himself an Indian. Yeah, but much like, well, you might say much like the use of the N-word. There's some people who are not allowed to say it. And why would they want to? I like First Peoples the best. I think was Native American is de rigueur these days. I don't know the definition of that either, but only from context. Shazbot says, I've never seen a ghost before, thank goodness. Green Tea says, I've seen the shadow people, but never a ghost. Never a full ghost. In the fall of 1875, Harry Mulvaney, a fire tender. So this page says webarchive.org. Is that the Wayback Machine? Yes, that's the Wayback Machine. You do, however, let me see if you have to go to a special place. Hold on, Kanga Kong. Okay, so we can do that here. Bookmark, YouTube tools, research. Yeah, web.archive.org. So there's a period between the B and the A. Web.archive.org. That's the Wayback Machine. Any website that it has crawled, it has kept a record of. They also ask for donations with little heart. Oh, that is them. This is them asking for donations. There's another checkbox. I will generously add 64 cents to cover fees. Make this monthly. I need some coffee. Well, let's go back to the original account. I mean, that counts better anyway. Where is that? At the way back. There it is. Verpine suggests that the fees are probably credit card processing fees, right? And yeah, because that's probably all done by some app that they're attached to their webpage, right? Can you get there by typing in the Wayback Machine, asks Kenga Kong. Let's find out. The Wayback Machine, copy that. We'll go to Google, which is what most people use. Typing in the Wayback Machine. Yep, first result, right at the top. It says here, wayback.archive.org. When you go there, however, The address is web.archive.org. Good thinking, Kenga. Back to the source document. Harlan Mulvaney, a fire tender. Now, what kind of job would fire tender be? Keep the fire going, right? But not just a camp, a fire for the camp. Or was it? Just fire for the camp. Fire for the lamps? Fire for the lamps, I bet. A fire tender. That's my bet. Was driving a wagon load of firewood into the tunnel late one night. He's a fire tender and he's bringing firewood into the tunnel. The fire tender. Maybe it's someone who makes sure there is no fire? Fire tender. Like a fire warden. He makes sure that no fire happens, and if it does, he deals with it type thing? Or what is a fire tender? In 1875. You get out of the way. No, that's going to be here. What is a in 1875? Answer with AI. Fire tending vehicle. A fire tender in 1875 would likely refer to a horse-drawn or manual water cart used by firefighting brigades to transport water to a fire scene. These early fire tenders were designed to carry a limited amount of water, typically between 1,000 to 2,000 gallons, and were often pulled by horses or oxen. In 1875, firefighting techniques and equipment were still evolving, and fire tenders were a crucial component of firefighting operations. They would typically be used to supplement the water supply from nearby sources, such as hydrants or nearby bodies of water, to fight fires. They would not have had the same capabilities as modern water tenders. Okay. Why would be driving a wagon full of wood? In other words, why would a fire tender in 1875 be driving a wagon full of wood? Supplying coal and wood for steam-powered fire engines, restarting steam engines, practicality and availability. Wood-fired engines were also used. Maybe there were engines in the tunnel? In summary, a fire tender in 1875 would drive a wagon full of wood to supply coal and wood-fired steam engines, or restart steam engines as needed, and leverage the availability and affordability of wood as a fuel source. And they're going to leverage that wood. Elder Grown says, busy work when there's no fire. Taco says, like a coal shoveler. Elder... Where's that fire tender quote? Oh, we're going to the original, which is here. Harlan Mulvaney, a fire tender, was driving a wagon load of firewood into the tunnel late one night. Suddenly, Mulvaney turned his team around, whipped the horses across their flanks, and careened out of the tunnel. A couple of days later, workmen found the team and the wagon in the woods, 3 miles from the tunnel. Mulvaney was never heard or seen from again. Seen or heard from again. A stoker, right? Taco is a stoker. So he's also a stoker. Or maybe exclusively a stoker. Maybe he wasn't the kind of fire tender that put out fires, but the kind of fire tender that was a fire stoker. Okay, thank you, Taco. Joseph Impoco, a former employee of the Boston and Maine Railroad, believes there may be some truth to this legend. He went to work for the railroad at the age of 18 and claimed the tunnel ghost saved his life twice. In an interview that appeared in the Berkshire Sampler of October 30th, 1977. Can we see that? Whoops. Berkshire Sampler, huh? Let's find out. That's not where we're going. That's not where we're going here. We're going here. Go home. Berkshire Sampler of October 30, 1977. Of course, I don't say what page it's on. October 30th, here from December 25th. Berkshire Sampler, Berkshire Hathaway, Berkshire Sampler picture, massnewspapers.com. Anyway, we can get it for free. National Archives. Berkshire Sampler from Pittsfield, newspapers.com. But that is not free, is it? No. Do they give you a preview? Gotcha, man, with the link. Thank you, sir. On the ball, sir. The Hoosac Tunnel. And there's got to be a way to watch this. Save necessarily share. Which has the better resolution? I'm going to say this one. A little more, please. Every ghost watcher from Hamlet to Ichabod Crane knows that spirits are not particularly fussy about where they choose to haunt. Written by Eileen Cooperschmidt. Hoosac Tunnel backstory. There were many ways to unalive in the Hoosac Tunnel. Some workers fell down the tunnel's center shaft, which was 1,000 feet deep. Wow, that's a lot of feet. The tunnel's center shaft. From the top of the mountain? From the top of the mountain, perhaps. Some unalived in fires, others in explosions caused by nitroglycerin, which was put to practical use for the first time during the tunnel's construction. But however they died the way ghosts are supposed to die, suddenly and violently. Here we have the Ringo story. He fled the area. He was drawn back to the site a year later. So that's an important detail. Ringo didn't just come back to the site a little while after. It was a year later he came back to the site after fleeing. Could I have a job again? There's Travers and... Oh, there's a Mr. Dunn. That's why there's no reference to him. That's why we don't know what he did or what his title was. Because this was from an entry by mechanical engineer Paul Travers, who wrote a letter to his sister on September 8th, 1868. The guy who was in Shiloh. Last night, Mr. Dunn and I entered the Great Tunnel. He calls it the Great Tunnel. Mr. Dunn agreed it was not the wind we heard. Perhaps Nash or Brinkman, I wonder. End of quote from the letter. All he says is Mr. Dunn agreed it was not the wind we heard. So, wasn't that with the Spectre, when they saw the Spectre? Or was that the next two guys? That was the next two guys. That was Dr. Clifford Owens and the Superintendent of Drilling Operations, James R. McKinstry. Here they let loose that Dr. Clifford Owens was out of Detroit. The headless man came so close I could have touched it, and it paused in front of us as if looking us over, then floated off toward the east end of the shaft and vanished into thin air. Although Sampler attempted to interview Dr. Owens and Paul Travers about their century-old experiences, a seance performed at the tunnel's mouth proved unsuccessful. An item in the August 1976 Star, however, brought new hope, according to the Star. A Mr. Joseph Mpoko had worked on the construction of the Hoosac Tunnel more than 50 years ago at the age of 18. In the article, it was said that Mr. Mpoko had been warned of imminent death twice by the tunnel's ghosts. The first time was while he was crouching alone in the tunnel's black wastes. And the second occurred while he was freeing an iron bar from ice on the tracks. Because the Star is known for sensational journalism, and because its article more than doubles the actual Hoosac Tunnel death toll, quoting it at 400 men and boys. The Sampler felt it would be wise to track down Mr. Mpoko. I have to get it back into my memory, Mpoko, a retired Springfield poultry farmer, said when we called him. Once I was squatting on the tracks when I heard a voice say, "Run, Joe, run." I turned and sure enough, no, number 60 was coming at me. Boy, did I jump back fast. When I looked, there was no one there. The Sampler. In other words, you heard a voice before you heard the approaching train? Mpoko. Yes, I had seen a guy with a torch walk by, and he had waved to me, but I hadn't paid any attention. If that voice had not called to me, I would have been unalived. End quote. Mpoko also confirmed the Star's account of his second escape from unalivement. While freeing an iron crowbar from a prison of ice, he heard a voice cry, "Joe, Joe, drop it, Joe." Something made my hands open, Mpoko said, and the bar dropped. A second later, it was struck and smashed against the tunnel's wall by 11,000 volts of electricity from a short-circuited power line. Big Test says, "I'm late, Night Terrors." Whee! Big Test, by the way, not this Wednesday movie, which I expect to see you at, but next Wednesday's movie, we're going to have Monty Python on. So don't miss Monty Python and the Holy Grail 2 weeks 2 weeks hence. Of course, coming this Wednesday, that is tomorrow, Gotcha Man is guest host. And it's going to be the movies Child's Play and The Quiet Earth. Child's Play, of course, you can't miss it. It's the first Chucky film, the origin film. And A Quiet Earth, and in A Quiet Earth, you may even get to see nudity. So don't miss those two classics, both highly rated on IMDb. And welcome to Big Test. Joe, Joe, drop it, Joe. Something made my hands open, Mpoko said, and the bar dropped. Now, this is this newspaper interviewing this guy who was there. A second later, it was struck and smashed against the tunnel's wall by 11,000 volts of electricity from a short-circuited power line. And then there was the time, again from Mpoko, we were clearing trees. And this is something really unbelievable, Mpoko assured the sampler. This goddamn big tree started to fall my way. And that's the last of the clip. And I assume there's no way in hell we're going to find the end of that story. But evidently, the voice said, Joe, Joe, Joe. Widowmaker. Which is what they call trees that fall on you in the wood. A widowmaker. Yeah, people used to die from trees falling on them. Isn't that interesting? I guess if it happens from behind, right? It can sneak up on you. You hear the noise. You don't see anything. You turn around and it's supposed to be pretty quick. It must not be, it must not take, you know, it must be, yeah. Widowmakers. Shazbot says that's a horrible way to go, especially if you don't die right away. And Verpine reminds us, people still die from widowmakers. Welcome, Zerithian. Oh, you're most welcome, Big Test. That's 2 weeks hence. Tomorrow, Child's Play and The Quiet Earth. Gotcha Man will be guest host. Coffee. And then there was the time, why don't they, and that probably says continued here somewhere or something. This goddamn big tree started to fall my way. And then nothing. Back to the next closest source. Mpoko again. Maybe the tree story is here. Yes, it is. Later, while removing trees from the tunnel entrance, Mpoko was nearly crushed when an enormous oak fell in his direction. He outran the falling tree, all the while hearing a strange, unearthly laugh. He was certain the laugh had not come from one of his crew members. Joseph Mpoko then quit his job and moved away. But every year he returned to visit the tunnel and to pay homage to the specter who had saved his life. He was certain that if he did not go, every year he returned to visit the tunnel. He was certain that if he did not go, tragedy would befall him. In 1977, he stayed home. His wife was ill and she wanted him with her. In October of that year, she passed away. May God rest her soul. Both of their souls by now. In 1976, a parapsychologist from Agawam, Massachusetts, visited the tunnel and claimed to see the figure of a man wearing old-fashioned work clothes. Didn't they just work at whatever they had? Old-fashioned work clothes. What does he mean, like one-piece overalls, maybe? I doubt they were in uniform. The man appeared with a glowing white light. Although maybe they were uniformed. Maybe we can find pictures of the work crew. Could it have been the apparition that Owens and McKinstry had seen 104 years earlier? There's, I think, a blue glowing light. Ali Allmaker, a philosophy professor at North Adams State and part-time ghost hunter, wrote in Berkshire's Week, 1984, quote, I have been in the tunnel only once, accompanied by a railroad official, and can attest to the claim it is an eerie place. I had the uncomfortable feeling that someone was walking closely behind me in the darkness and would tap me on my shoulder, or worse, pull me into some unknown and unspeakable horror at any moment. End quote. Allmaker also reported on one occasion, college students took a tape recorder into the tunnel, turned it on and left. When they retrieved the machine, sounds like muffled human voices were on the tape. Although today's visitors to the area may be tempted to enter the tunnel, he risks his life in doing so because the Boston and Maine Railroad runs a dozen or more freight trains through the tunnel every day. But he can gain an appreciation of this enormous engineering feat by visiting the Hoosac Tunnel Museum in the Western Gateway Heritage State Park that opened in North Adams in 1895. And if the visitor talks to certain old-timers, he'll learn that reports of chilling winds, shrieking noises, chilling wine, let's chill some wine, and floating apparitions still occur. Perhaps the Mohawk Indians had correctly named Hoosac Mountain. In their language, it means the Forbidden Mountain. And did they also, as some believe, put a curse upon this place to keep it safe from white-skinned invaders? Minor points. Hoosac actually means place of rocks, not forbidden. Of course. The tunnel was completed in 1874 instead of 1875. Also, the miners who died in the central shaft died from the fire-consuming oxygen, not from naphtha fumes. So we have fact check here. They should go to work for the network. Kayla Rain has arrived. Welcome, Kayla Rain. Oh my God, so happy you are live here. Sadly, even people with no issues. I am a toddler season of life, which is rare. I can't even visit live, but I'm so happy I'm here. Is this a replay? No. I'm odd for some like it, but hate it when no one talks. So happy to see you though, Bill. Okay, yeah, no, this is live. I really prioritize the Twitch chat now because they're the only platform that's paying me. In other words, YouTube is not paying me. And you're not a mod now, but I can make you one. Let me see. Can I do it now? Add as moderator. There you go. Kayla Rain, you are now moderator. Next time you see your name, it'll have a little moderator sig next to it. Yeah, I'm no longer being paid by YouTube, so I'm afraid Twitch chat gets the lion's share of my attention. What else? Oh yes, new schedule, by the way. This is for everybody. Night Terrors is going to be on YouTube 1 day a week on Saturday, and on Twitch 2 days. So I'm only on Wednesdays and Saturdays from here on in for the foreseeable future. And I promise no more schedule changes for a while. Scout's Honor. What's that, 3? Scout's Honor. So the schedule from now on in the foreseeable future is Wednesdays and Saturdays only. Wednesdays is the movie. I'm not going to give those up. At least I'm not going to give up them appearing on Wednesday. I'm not giving up on those movies appearing on Wednesday. And Saturdays, the regular Night Terrors show, which is going to be a viewer's request show, will be on Twitch and YouTube. Zerithian says hi to KLB. Let me pin that, see if KLB will answer. See if she is still here. They were so lonely in chat, they think I'm a replay. My apologies, YouTube. Thank you, Green Tea. So here's our schedule from here on out. Thanks, guys, for taking notice. Okay, looks like next topic. Let's see. We have like we have a bunch, right? I'm going to pick the best one out of these. First, well, I don't want to insult anybody, but one that I think we'll be able to do the most research into, let's say. It may not be the best, but it'll be the one that I think we're most likely to be able to research the best. And it may not be the right opinion, but it's on the fly, so sue me. And my apologies to those whose idea will not appear next. Taco suggested. Oh, wait. Taco suggested the Gimpy plant. Verpine suggested Mrs. Hingley and the Christmas Martians. That sounds very interesting. Not that the pygmy plant does not sound interesting. Green Tea's suggestion. The Glycon Serpent. And if I remember correctly, Green Tea said that might be brief. The Glycon Serpent. And two more. No, one more. From Shazbot Shiznit. People who are accidentally buried alive. That's a good one. I should save all of these. But I think that Verpine takes it with the next topic, which is Green Tea says it's your show, Bill. Pick what you like. Yeah, I don't want to make people feel bad, though. Which is from Verpine, Mrs. Hingley and the Christmas Martians. Oh, yes, please. So tonight is an all Verpine show. Lord knows he deserves at least this much. So this is the AI response, I imagine. According to Jean Hingley's account, in 1979, which to me is recent, she and her husband Cyril experienced a peculiar and festive encounter. On a winter morning, Jean noticed a strange light in their backyard, which she initially thought was a carport light left on by her husband. However, upon investigation, she found no light. Shortly after, a group of Martians, dressed in festive attire, appeared at their doorstep, eager to indulge in mince pies and Christmas cheer. This unusual event, also dubbed the case of the mince pie Martians, has been documented as an authentic UFO sighting, with Jean Hingley's sincerity and sanity vouched for. The Martians' brief visit left a lasting impression on the Hingley family, making it a memorable holiday season. Coffee. The incident has been dissected in ufology circles, sparking curiosity about the Martians' motivations and the possibility of intergalactic connections during the holiday season. Key points. Jean Hingley's account. Yeah, let's get to the original account. An original newspaper article or magazine article would be nice. Kenga Kong says, I hope they took pictures. Eldergrown has heard tell that Santa Claus conquered the mountains. Taco, thank you for the contribution. Much appreciated, ma'am. Yeah, I don't think, did I pin that? I did. I don't think KLB's still there. KLB thought it was a replay and she left. Next time she comes on YouTube, she'll know it's a, she'll know it's a live, she'll know she's a moderator. I gotta post a note to her. Yes, you were on. And explain to her the whole YouTube not paying me thing. Okay. I gotta get the right spelling if I'm gonna look it up. I will, is now a mod. And an apology that she was ignored in chat. Now that that is written, let's find that account. Edit copy. Oh, we already copied, I think. Paste. No, I never copied it. Gene Hingley's account. Their AI doesn't give references, do they? Not really. Huh. Let's put that up here. Gene Hingley's account of the Mince Pie Martians. The original what? Listener stories. Listener stories. The original account. The 4th of January was the 38th anniversary of what the English press whimsically labeled the Mince Pie Martians. It was on that date. Twas on that date in 79, 2 days from the festival of the visit of the wise men to Bethlehem, that a small West Midlands town allegedly received a visitation of 3 quite extraordinary beings. So this is West Midlands, UK, I imagine. We'll see. Under normal circumstances, I would provide an abridged version, but in this case, I feel it would be impossible to do justice without copying it verbatim. The written account of the witness, 43-year-old Mrs. Jean Hingley. A briefer version originally appeared in the Dudley Herald of 12 January 1979, but it was left to a UFO researcher, Eileen Morris, to interview Mrs. Hingley and her husband several times, make extensive notes, and eventually type up the report, which the witness affirmed as accurate. Most of the other versions you will find on the internet. Refer back to secondary sources, particularly one by Alfred Budden. But this is the original. So here goes. Square brackets represent my own inserts. Oh, and there's their festive attire. So I thought they were like wearing red and green. I guess festive attire is the fact they were winged. Interesting. Rough sketch of the spacecraft. Mark left on the ground in the garden, 8 foot long and 4 foot across. Yeah, I'd say that's an interesting account. On the morning of January 4th, 1979, a cold, dark morning with snow on the ground. I had the strangest experience of my whole life. I live in a small council house. I believe council house is euphemism for public housing. Elder gone with a link. Thank you, Elder. Santa Claus conquers the Martians, of course. Thank you, Elder. Oh no, it's Taco says. Oh, with the Gimpy story. Alistair and his friend were in Queensland, Australia, and had an encounter with a Gimpy plant. His friend brushed up against the leaves and was in severe pain. An Aboriginal man made a mud pack for him and scraped the dried mud off to get the poisonous stingers out, while Alistair monitored him for cardiac arrest. The stingers came out, and he had to go to the hospital to get it treated. That was about 2 years ago, and he is still suffering from the effects. Wow, Taco. Thank you for that account of the Gimpy plant. I live in a small council house, public housing, in what we call public housing, the projects, what we call the projects. Rupine says the MST3K edition of Santa Claus versus the Martians is a hoot. No doubt. Eldergrown agrees. Near Birmingham. The house is one of a number on a small estate. Or maybe I'm not thinking of a council house then. Surrounded by wasteland and quarries. I must be confusing it with something else. So scratch the public housing. Unless someone corrects me. We are near Hellstone Quarry, and our road is named after the Bluestone Quarry. We, my husband Cyril, and myself have lived here for 9 years. We have an Alsatian dog named Hobo, who is 2.5 years old. I didn't realize they had hobos in the UK. I work at a factory making soundproofing for cars, and my husband is employed at a cement works. The house has a small front garden with a small lawn at the back, about 17 by 11 feet. There's a carport at the end of the lawn and a shed. A door opens to a road at the back of the house. At 7 o'clock on January, if we only had our address, we could take a look at the house. I live in a small council house in Bluestone Walk, Rowley Regis, near Birmingham. I wonder if they still have small council houses there. The house is one of a number on a small estate surrounded by wasteland and quarries. Oh, this I gotta see. This I must see. At the risk of not seeing the Martians, I must see the small council house in Bluestone, Rowley Regis. Copy. Bluestone Walk Round. So it's surrounded by wasteland and quarries. Back in 79, 25 years ago. No. 45 years ago. Yeah, Register Recibo. Bluestone Walk, Raleigh Regis. Got it. And Bluestone Walk, huh? Now it looks just as suburban as the U.S. or Australia. I take it no more council houses on a small estate. Where are the quarries? Ah, a quarry. That's where she used to be. Long since converted to suburbia. It says surrounded by quarries. Say surrounded? Surrounded by wasteland and quarries. Quarries plural. Actually, there's 2 quarries here, evidently. That's got to be 2 quarries, right? So surrounded by wasteland and 2 quarries. Where's the wasteland now? Huh. There's still wasteland. I guess this part here they weren't able to populate. Over here looks like maybe a public park or something. There's a school here, so they need land for their school. I take it. We do here anyway. And this looks like it might be what must be left of the wasteland right here. Whoops, wrong way. It looks like buildable wasteland. That's a little bit rough there. It looks like an enormous drop-off right there. So maybe like this is there's a little cleft in the land here that precludes housing development. Yeah, this one too. This looks like there's two bumps in the land here. Is there a downward-looking thing to so we can see how wastish the land is? Well, let's get on the road. Let's get right here and look down over the pond. Not the big pond, this little pond. So there's the water, but that's not looking down at it, is it? What kind of place is this? Can we increase? Oh, we can. Huh, I didn't know that. Car park customers, closed circuit television in operation. Premier Inn cannot accept responsibility for damage sustained to vehicles whilst entering, parking, or leaving the property. Yeah, we have the same signs over here, except for the CCTV in operation. So there's the park. There's the pond. And that looks like a big old hill. Look at that, yeah. It's a little too hilly for development at this time. And a hill on the other side, right? Yeah, and a hill rising on the other side. Yeah, that looks kind of scrubbish. Look at how well it defines the trees. Oh, there's another hill, another drop-off, almost like a cliff. Yeah, that's kind of wastelandy-like. Yeah, it would cost a penny or two to develop that land, I imagine. Taco says we have a developed area which used to be a lead dump. It was converted into a high-end housing area in South Fremantle. Seriously, I wouldn't live there. Not with the lead. Right? The Romans used to eat off lead. Lead plates they had, according to my memory. Elder Grow says, you're not going to go back to 79. Butterboard says Google Maps has a feature where you can visit during prior years. Really? Prior years, huh? Let's undo this. Please fly back into the air. It's not undoing anything. Can we go minus? How do we get over the top of this again? Can we do it like this? No. Forget the past. File. I can't get it to straighten out. View. Layers, perhaps? Add. Tools. View layers? Layers, clean, exploration, everything, custom. Edit time lapse. From 1984 till today. 84 is pretty close to 79. Let's try the time lapse. Thank you, genius Buttersbeard. Thank you, BB. Thank you, Mr. B. Time-lapse mode temporarily disables 3D buildings for optimal viewing. Can we go back, though? Yeah, we can. There's the school. Okay. I guess as soon as the pixels fill in here, we'll see something worthwhile. From 84, which is not much past 79. 5 years. You can see it developing from hills. Oh, come on. It's got to be got a little bit more definition. Guess it's going to be a waiting game. We'll just let it run. Green Tea says to Taco, there was a place like that near St. Louis or St. Louis, Missouri, called Times Beach. The place was so contaminated from spraying used oil that they cleared out the whole town and gated it. They waited until everyone forgot. And now it's a park with housing. Elderground wants to know how the F did Google get satellite data from 1984? Zerithian says, that's what I want to know too. I don't know if this is going to improve at all, but we'll let it run and see if it does. Some parts have improved. You can kind of see where the greenness starts. Yeah. I wish I could restore it to the top view. I don't know how to do that. I thought you just click the little man and it gets rid of that. But what if I go to tilt the view to 2D? 2D. There we go. Oh, we still have the animation. Okay, we'll let that run, see if what happens. Don't mind us a little bit more. Where's that quarry? Oh, I was too close. Where's those two twin quarries? There's the twin quarries. Right? No, that's a lake. Maybe that's yet another quarry. It looks like a damn quarry. We might have got turned around, but go out farther, please. Where's the quarries, people? Where are they and how big are they? We never would have gotten full resolution there, I guess. Where was that original lake I was looking at? Come on, quarries. Oh, come on. Minus, minus. The two quarries ought to show up in here somewhere. Where do we start? Near Birmingham, Sutton Park, roughly, Shenstone, Weeford, Walsall Wood, Walsall. Can I go back here? Places. Yes. Okay, now we still have the animation. We're recentered. See how the quarries changed too, I imagine. Still too close? Where are the quarries? Rolly Regs, right? Bluestone Walk, Rolly Regis. Rolly Regs. Where's those quarries? I can't even see where we were before. Elder Growth says, maybe the real quarries were the friends we made along the way. That could be one of them. But there were two for sure. Went in a little bit. Let's stop the animation here. Layers, no time lapse. Oh, quarry's right here. Okay, so it was this place I said. That's probably the quarry. And the two is this offshoot. So let's get the time lapse now. See, quarry here, quarry here. Let's try time lapse on that. Now that we're recentered. And very low resolution. You can see it was all countryside. Holy shit. You can see it starts with all countryside. Right after they show the buildings, there's a pause before it starts the animation again. There's suburbia. Now there's the countryside. Oh, that's amazing. Okay. At 7 o'clock on January the 4th, my husband was going to work by car, and I stood at the back door to wave him off. Hobo, our dog, was by my side. When my husband had gone, I saw a light in the garden, and I thought Cyril has left a light on in the carport. I went down the garden to the carport, but saw the light was switched off. As we turned to go back to the house, I saw an orange light over the garden, which gradually turned white. It lit the whole garden. We went into the back door of the house, her and the dog, suddenly with a sound like Z, Z, Z. 3 beings floated past me through the open door. They glowed with a brilliant light and seemed to float about 30 centimeters above the floor. As they floated past me into the lounge, I saw they had wonderful wings. I was so terrified that I grabbed the steel sink in the kitchen. I could not speak. I was frozen. I looked at Hobo. He seemed to hobble to his drinking bowl, swaying from side to side. His hair was sticking out all over like a hedgehog's. So static electricity, right? Yet Hobo was afraid of nothing. He seemed as though he was drugged. He just flopped down and lay on the floor stiff, with his eyes open. I felt as though all the blood in my body had drained out through my toes. I was paralyzed. My mouth was wide open, but I could neither move nor speak. Buttersbeard says, the darn things had wings. After a while, the fear seemed to leave me. I felt as if I were lifted up. I wondered what was happening. I felt as if I were a different person, as though I was in heaven, although still at home. I seemed to float into the lounge. I held the door, but my feet did not touch the ground. Out-of-body experience? The doors were wide open, and it was a bitterly cold morning, but I felt warm. All the downstairs lights were on, as it was dark outside. I could hear the little artificial Christmas tree shaking. But the light was so brilliant that I had to cover my eyes. The three creatures seemed to read my mind. It was like a light or an X-ray penetrating my brain. When I took my hands from my eyes, I could see. They seemed to have turned down the light that surrounded them. There was a glow around their heads. I could see them clearly. They were shaking and tugging at the little Christmas tree. There they were, three little slim men in silvery green tunics and silver waistcoats, or silver waistcoats, with silver buttons or pressed studs. They were about 3 feet 6 inches to 4 feet high. Their pointed hands and feet were covered in the same silvery green, and they had pointed caps on their heads of the same color, and with something like a lamp on top. They had transparent fishbowl helmets over their heads, which rested on their shoulders. There were no eyebrows or ears to be seen. Green Tea says, awesome. I know, right? Their faces were waxy white, corpse-like, and they had black diamond eyes. The witness relates, I don't know much about precious stones, but that is how I would describe them. Black diamond. I didn't notice their noses. Their mouths were very thin. Their wings were wonderful, large, oval-shaped, and glowing with rainbow colors, but more beautiful than our earthly colors. Their wings were covered in dots like braille. I thought of Joseph's coat of many colors. Our colors seemed like chemical colors compared to them. The three were floating around the lounge, touching everything. The Christmas cards, the clock, the radio, the furniture. At last I could speak. I said, 3 of you and 1 of me. What are you going to do? What do you want with me? Each of them put their hands to their chests with their pointy hands and seemed to manipulate buttons. A beep sound came from each being's chest, and then the voice came from the chest. The mouths never moved. They all spoke together. We shall not harm you. Where have you come from? I asked, and they said, we come from the sky. They must have been expecting to finding Neanderthals, I guess. We come from the sky. Which, I mean, there's so many details in this account that sound authentic. It's amazing, excuse me. Lots of authentic sounding details in this. They started to shake the little Christmas tree again, and the little fairy fell from its perch on the top. I was still paralyzed because I thought about picking it up. I said, we put up a Christmas tree because we believe Jesus was born then. They said, we know all about Jesus. They were looking at the Sunday papers on the table. There was an honors list on the front page. I said, these people have been made lords. They said, there is only one. They looked at a picture of the Queen, and I said, you should go to the Queen or go see a real lady. I wondered why they came to me. There's something that someone of a lower class might say. I don't know, though. I wasn't raised in the UK. Excuse me. Gotcha Man says the Boogaloo's Christmas special. I wondered why they came to me, as I am just a working woman. They said, "You are a lady. We have a large lounge with a corner unit couch." They sat on the couch and bounced like children. I said, "Be careful of my furniture," and they stopped. When I spoke sharply, they put the light up, so I thought I'd better be friendly with them. They were very small, but they seemed to have power in their bodies that might have harmed me. My eyes still felt sore from the bright light, but with them I felt happy. They looked at me with friendly eyes. If that was an illusion. I imagine your enemy for a short time can make you think he is your friend. I said, "I cannot call you creatures, so I shall call you gentlemen." I started to say, "Nice to see you." They replied, "Nice." When they floated around the room, their wings fluttered gently. There was no sound. When they moved through the open door to the hall, they folded their wings behind their backs like pleated fans. They circled in the hall and floated upstairs. The doors to the upstairs rooms were closed, and they floated down again. So, like these details here. This is like reality. This is amazing. They picked up the tapes for the tape recorder and looked at the packets of cigarettes on the sideboard. There were bottles of whiskey and sherry there, as it was not long after Christmas. I asked, "Do you want a drink?" They said, "Water," 3 times. I went to the kitchen and fetched 4 glasses of water. I put them on a metal tray. She's moving now. I thought I would bring one for myself as well, to show that it wasn't poison, and to drink with them to keep them company. As I came near them with the metal tray, I could hardly hold it. The tray seemed to be magnetized towards them. I put the tray down on the table, and each of them picked up a glass when I lifted mine. They seemed about to lift their masks, but when they saw me watching, they put the power light on. I didn't actually see them drink, but when they put the glasses back on the tray, the water was gone. That's a scary... if you can't see them drink, I don't like that. Me no likey. They said, "We have been to Australia, New Zealand, and America." Excuse me. I have juice here somewhere. There it is. We call it juice. It's really a diet crystal tea. Excuse me. Those are small gulps. It's mostly to hydrate the larynx. They said, "We have been to Australia, New Zealand, and America. We come down here to talk to people, but they don't seem to be interested." I asked, "Shall I tell people on Earth about it?" And they replied yes. They said, "We have been here before, and we shall come again." Another thing they said was, "Everybody will go to heaven. There are beautiful colors there." They seemed to put a light on me to draw out the words they wanted to hear. I was stuttering with nervousness. I was talking about politics and women going to work, and I said, "It's a man's world." In this, they seemed interested and excited, as though they were listening and understanding. I told them I had not been to chapel for a year or 2, as chapels had pop groups and guitarists these days, and I did not like that kind of service. They said, "There is no need to worship in buildings." I said, "The Bible is hard to understand," and they seemed to know what I meant. I told them that I had looked after foster children for 7 years, and at one time I had looked after 13 stray dogs. The neighbors' children used to come with me to take them for walks. Then I went to fetch a plate of mince pies for them. Hence the mince pie title. Here, by the way, is a rough sketch of the orange-colored spacecraft. And down here, the impression in the earth that it made in her garden. I put 6 mince pies on a plate and told them to help themselves. They each lifted a mince pie from the plate as though their hands were magnetic. I saw they were looking again at the cigarettes. I said, I will show you how people smoke these. I struck a match and lit a cigarette. They leapt back as though they were frightened and began to float towards the back door. I stubbed out the butt and called out, "Come back, come back." I still seemed to be floating as I followed them. And as they went through the back door, I saw an orange-colored glowing thing in the back garden. It was their ship. It must have been 8 to 10 feet long and 4 feet high. It had round windows or portholes. It seemed to be covered with a kind of shining plastic. I could not see through the portholes. There was something like a scorpion tail at the back and kind of a wheel on the top. Oh, they missed the wheel in the drawing. Where's the wheel on the top? That's your scorpion tail. Where's the wheel on the top? Like a periscope. They still held 1 mince pie each as they went towards their ship and entered it. They flashed their lights twice as if to say goodbye. Then they took off over the fence and away across the open ground towards Oldbury. The sky was still dark with no stars, and there was snow on the ground. Verpine says, "Fire bad, run away." Then my dog Hobo came to life and wandered around the garden as though he were looking for them. There was a deep impression in the back garden where the ship had settled. I felt warm and happy, although it was such a cold morning. I felt good, as though I had been blessed. When I went into the house and looked around, I realized that the clock and the radio had stopped. I spoke to my next-door neighbor, and she said, "You should ring the police." I rang the Oldbury police, and they said they would come. I rang my husband, but he couldn't leave his job. I said to him, "I've had visitors with wings." He said, "What do you mean, birds?" I was shaking. I was crying. I said, "No, men with wings." He laughed and said, "Why don't you go and have your hair done and tell the girls about it?" This in 79. Which, if you know, you know. You still didn't say that back then. I did that later on, and they were very kind. The police came from West Bromwich Police Station, or West Bromwich. And they looked around and said, "You look pale, as though you've had a shock." They couldn't do much. They couldn't take fingerprints. What about the, didn't she pour him something to drink? They went away and came back later. They rang UFO Investigative Service in Birmingham. Excuse me. The people came and measured the impression. The people came and measured the impression on the ground in the back garden. It was 8 feet by 4 feet. They also took soil samples for analysis. I have not yet heard the results. I've had a lot of nice letters from people who were interested after reading reports in the papers. Some people sent tapes to be returned to them with my own story. Here, why don't you record something for me? Yeah, I don't mind impinging upon your private time. Aldegon reminds us they were wearing silver fabric over their hands. Okay, everybody, it is 10 after, and I am burnt out. So do not forget, tomorrow night, Gotcha Man will be guest host. I will be there in spirit, that is to say, in chat. If I'm lucky. And it'll be hosted by the G-Man with the movies Child's Play, the first Chucky movie, and the best, the first and the best, and The Quiet Earth, a apocalyptic classic. Green Tea is looking forward to tomorrow night. And Green Tea says, great show. Thank you, ma'am. Until then, may God bless and protect you all.